On this Tuesday episode of the Locked On Texans podcast, Cody and I have more takeaways from Sunday's victory versus the Indianapolis Colts. While one of those takeaways may lead to the Houston Texans playbook opening up because they have a player to unlock everything underneath.
You are Locked On Texans, your daily podcast on the Houston Texans. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, everybody, to this Tuesday episode of the Locked On Texans podcast, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you to all of our first-time listeners and viewers for stopping by. We really appreciate it. Please subscribe, like, and comment to the Locked On Texans podcast on YouTube and wherever you listen to your podcast. Thank you to all of our everydayers coming back to continue to listen to Cody and myself talk Texans. And that's what we're here to do on this Tuesday. We're talking ball talk. We're talking sports. We're talking what's going on the field. We're talking all things that led to a Texans dub. And we're going to do so with me, Johnson Sports Guy Hickman, on the other side of the screen, all the way up in Detroit, still holding it down for H-Town, Cody Davis. We got some interesting topics to discuss today, Cody. Go ahead and take us away.
And on this Tuesday installment of Locked On Texans, we are going to continue with our top takeaways from Sunday's victory against the Indianapolis Colts. And then we're going to close out the show because, John, there's been so much going on to the point. I don't really think we've really been talking about CJ that much over the last couple of weeks, which is a good thing. Because I know there's one team in the AFC that is tired of talking about their starting quarterback, who used to be our starting quarterback, and sheesh, that's all I gotta say with that topic. Boy, but like I mentioned, we're going to continue here, talking about our top takeaways from Sunday's victory against the Indianapolis Colts. And John, I want to ask you one question: do you or do you not think, along with CJ Stroud, have we talked enough about this tight end unit?
Well, let's take a look at directly take a look at Sunday's game. 69. You want to know why that number is special? What 69 stands for? That's the number of run blocking snaps shared between the tight end group, Dalton Schultz, Brevin Jordan, and Cade Stover. With this formula, we saw that unit, that group, contribute to over 150 yards on the ground for Joe Mixon. And I think that they played a damn good role for Bobby Sloyd, for this offense, along with just replicating the aggressiveness, the swarm mentality from their head coach. They played their role amazingly on Sunday. And I tell you what, with this formula, teams may have to run for your life. They had 69 snaps. 69 guys, run for your life. Hey, Joe Mixon may be running for his life behind that unit, but I was impressed by the tight end group. Despite the numbers, no big plays vertically, but they did what they needed to do.
And look, what you talking about the tight end unit, the one thing I will say, we already know what to expect from Dalton Schultz, and you damn sure know we already know what to expect from Brevin Jordan. However, the one guy that I want to highlight when we talk about this tight end unit is Cade Stover, a guy that you guys know that I was super high on going into the draft, had an opportunity to talk to him at the NFL Combine, wanted the Houston Texans to draft him. They did. And you saw, remember, if we go all the way back to, I believe that was day 3 of the NFL draft, and remember, everybody was just talking about how for the very first time, or one of the few times, we actually saw Nick Caserio kind of look a little bit giddy from getting a player in the draft. We finally saw why, because the one thing that I've noticed about Cade Stover during his career at Ohio State, one thing that I noticed with everything, with whether it was Nick Caserio, CJ Stroud, Coach Nico, a lot of people was always talking about how Cade Stover is somewhat of a Swiss Army knife. And look, I understand that he only played in 15 snaps, but he's going to be somebody who is always going to make sure he make the most out of his opportunities. We have talked a lot over the past day or so about how well Joe Mixon looked on the ground. We have talked a lot about the run blocking with this organization going back to Sunday's game against the Indianapolis Colts. But there is one guy who probably got a little bit overlooked with his run blocking, and that's Cade Stover. Here is what Joe Mixon and head coach Nico Ryans had to say about Stover's performance.
First off, special shout out to Stover. I mean, he made critical blocks. Them guys on the edges, they make crucial blocks, and we made them pay. But, like they said, the grown man football, I'm just happy. This is my first time really probably seeing a fullback, and I can't remember the last time I seen a fullback in front of me, man. So it's a hell of a feeling, man, being on the winning side of the things, and I'm just glad I'm on this side of, playing with Houston, man.
Our tight ends did an outstanding job. Yesterday was a lot of talk on the offensive line and what they did, but as you watch it, our tight ends allowed us to get the edge a lot, and we used Cade at the fullback position. We used Dalton at the fullback position. Just as many different ways as possible we can utilize the personnel. One thing about Cade is from the moment that he stepped on at our facility, like, he's been very smart and on it. So anything that we've asked him to do, like, he's ready to go. And so, he doesn't make mistakes, and that's a lot being said for a rookie. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes. He's where he's supposed to be. He enjoyed playing the game of football. So for him to get at that fullback position, he was ready for it, and he did a really good job of it.
Of his 15 snaps, Cade Stover appeared at fullback for 12 of those. So Houston loves him because of his versatility.
And the one thing that I love, that I'm so happy about, that we're talking about Cade Stover and his blocking, John. Remember, coming into the draft, some people, they wasn't too high on Cade Stover due to some of the deficiencies that he had at blocking. I remember you was one of them. And, for us to be sitting here week one of the regular season, basically, not basically, but his official NFL debut, and we're sitting here talking about what was once considered a weak point of his game, is part of the reason why we are highlighting him today. It not only shows his passion, but it also shows his work ethic, and it also shows that the Houston Texans actually have another young prospect that they're going to be able to utilize, develop into something a little bit more special down the road, man. Shout out to Cade Stover. Love what I've seen from him. As a matter of fact, he had one of the best run blocks. I believe that one came place during the, I want to say, second quarter, if I'm not mistaken, where he had an opportunity to create a big hole between the A and the B gap for Joe Mixon. I believe Joe Mixon was able to get, I think, 8 yards off of that and the first down. Cade Stover, NFL debut. I love what I'm seeing. Young man, keep doing your thing.
One of my takeaways that we have not talked about, Cody, Jaime Fairbairn. 3 50-yard field goals for the Houston Texans, picking up where he left off last year. So we don't talk about kickers enough on this show. I don't think we talk about kickers enough throughout the NFL.
You're talking about Dare.
That's a good one. Okay. All right. And Dare got in on the action yesterday Sunday for the Houston Texans. But for the Houston Texans, we talk about the ground game a lot, but number one, I mean, like, they completely controlled the clock. The Texans ran 76 plays on Sunday. But I wanted to take a deeper look into how they were able to do so. And going into that fourth quarter, or going into the end of the third quarter, that fourth quarter time span, it got close for Houston. The game was in reach for the Indianapolis Colts. It was very much so a game that they could have lost. And that type of game in the past, maybe not directly last year, but the year before, we would have seen Houston lose those games. What was the difference? Well, they got a running back that can tote the rock. And in that, those last two scoring drives for the Houston Texans, the Texans put on nearly a flawless drive. But that should definitely be highlighted by how great of a job the left side of that offensive line did. When the drive started, the Texans was holding a 15-13 lead. And remember, right before halftime, the miscommunication and confusion with the clock took away any chances the Houston Texans had to lead with at least 3 points on the board, which would have given them a much more comfortable cushion. That first drive, 13 plays, 70 yards, 7 minutes, time of possession. Joe Mixon ran behind the left side of the line 6 times for 31 yards, 5.1 yards per carry, and a touchdown. The second scoring drive, 11 plays, 70 yards, 7.5 minutes taken off the board. Combined runners included Joe Mixon. Damian Pierce got in on the action. Tank Dell's reverse, where Laramie got out there in space, and he had an opportunity to put a hand on the defender. 48 yards on the ground, 9.6 yards per carry. When we look at the Houston Texans' last 2 scoring drives, guys, 11 carries, 79 yards, 7.1 yards per carry, a TD, 3 first downs on those drives combined alone. One of the more dominant run performances we've seen from the Houston Texans as of late. I think this is a trend that we will continue to see. And again, that drive helped Houston control the clock in a major way. The Colts were starting to get somewhat of a rhythm. Every time they scored, you saw them fight back, punch back, punch back. Those 2 drives combined for 24 plays and took nearly 15 minutes worth of clock away from the Colts.
You talk about that left side of the offensive line. You know who was playing left guard? Kenyon Green. John, I know you highlighted him on yesterday, but here's what Coach Nico Rhines had to say about Green's performance.
For Kenyon, what I see, second play of the game, like you see Kenyon, the way he comes off the ball and the way he finished in such a physical manner on the second play of the game, that let me instantly know like how he was going to play the entire game. So you saw a relentless like finish mentality. You saw the physicality. You saw the quickness, like getting up to the second level. Kenyon just got better as the game continued to progress. So it was very encouraging to see where Kenyon started the season yesterday and to see how much better he can continue to be as we continue to go through this year.
Kenyon Green, man. I mean, I go back and watch some of that tape, guys, and I encourage all of you to do so. Drop it in the comments if you did. I want to hear some of your takeaways. But you know what was impressive to me? It wasn't necessarily the plays where the ball was coming to his side, and they were impressive. It was some of those backside blocks that Kenyon Green did for the Houston
I
Texans.
seen one of them.
and it was like, for me, looking at that, it oh my gosh, it's encouraging. You love to see that young man get over early adversity in his career, missing the second year, issues his first year. But I don't think we've seen him play that aggressive since he's coming to the NFL. Whether that be his rookie year, whether that be training camp last year, training camp this year, he played aggressive. He played nasty. He was putting his hands all up on – move out the way. My running back coming. I got to make room. And I think we talk about the potential that he brings to this team. If you get this version of Kenyon Green, you're looking at a player that can unlock A, B, C, and D for Houston. Well, 150 on the ground for one running back. Nearly 200 rushing yards for the whole team. An open playbook. Now you're looking at Houston being able to bootleg on third downs. Don't got to necessarily run straight up because now you got to respect the run a little bit. And he did it against Grover Stewart, DeForest Buckner, Raekwon Davis. Some of those great defensive tackles 2 years ago, they was taking his lunch money. 2 years later, he left that stadium with some more food in his pocket. So shout out to Kenyon Green, man. This is the performance that we've been waiting on for 2 seasons now. And doggone it, it feels good to see it.
And on the other side of the break, we're going to continue our takeaways from Sunday's game and let everyone know why this version of Stefon Diggs could be what's best for the Houston Texans.
Men, when we leave the house, it's phone, wallet, keys, and how my hair looks. But if you're experiencing hair loss, you may not be so confident when you step outside their door. It's time to get that confidence back and restore your hair with Hims. You can't forget it. I'm talking to you, and you may be talking to him, and he may tell you about Hims. No one wants to lose their hair, but for men, it's actually very common. And now with Hims, the solution is simple. Try Hims hair loss solution, and you'll be joining hundreds of thousands of subscribers who got their flow back. Come on now. Y'all know how we feel. Fresh edge up, fresh haircut. You feel good. Your line is intact. Now you want to go outside. You want to play around a little bit in the streets, right? You could do that with Hims. Get your confidence back with Hims. Start free Start your free online visit today at hims.com/lockedonnfl. That's HIMS.com/lockedonnfl for your personalized hair loss treatment options. Hims.com/lockedon. Results vary based on studies of topical and oral minoxidil. Prescription products require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if a prescription is appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for full details and important safety information.
Welcome back in, ladies and gentlemen, to this Tuesday installment of Locked On Texans. John, before we talk about Stefon Diggs, I do want to shift over and talk about Tank Dell just for a little bit, man. It was so good to see Tank Dell out there on the field, officially playing in his first official game since December, since he went down with that leg injury. And, we all know everything that Tank Dell went through after that. We know about the unfortunate situation that happened. What was that? Early April, I want to say. But Tank Dell, his first official game back, 40 yards, 3 catches, and this is what he had to say about his return and about the rest of the Houston Texans wide receiving core.
Felt great, all glory to God. Felt good just to be out there healthy with my teammates, everybody running around wild, smiling, new faces, Diggs and Joe Mix, everybody bringing energy, so it felt great. I read a stat line, Diggs had 6 targets, Nico had 7, I had 7. Can't complain with those targets, man. I feel like everybody had opportunities to go get a piece of the pie, so everybody just was feeding off each other and making plays when the number was called, so it was good.
I know some people going to look at the stat line, see 33 yards, 6 catches. Stefon Diggs not happy. But, John, like I said on yesterday, man, I think the role that Stefon Diggs is going to play here in Houston is going to be what's best for this organization. And not only what's best for this organization, is actually going to help CJ, Bobby Sloyd, and everybody else keep the idea of the Houston Texans having a 5-headed monster out there on the field. And I say that because, and I know I kind of talked about this on yesterday as well, and I know you're going to dive more into it, but the one thing, when I went back and I watched yesterday's game, the one thing that I loved the most, there were so many times where it seemed like Stefon Diggs was more so a decoy out there on the field, to the point it opened up more of his teammates and stuff. And that is definitely going to be very vital for the Houston Texans, especially when you get later on in the season and you're playing some of the other top teams in the league, man. I love what I saw out of Stefon Diggs. I love how they're using Stefon Diggs. And the best thing about all of this, he's still going to give you a $180 something, a $190, a $150 something whenever he's going to have an opportunity to do so. But shout out to Stefon Diggs, man. I love the role that the Houston Texans have carved out for him.
I don't know if Stefon has a $150 in him no more. $180.
I think maybe $180, $190 might be. That's for 12. 12 out here.
12 got it.
I guarantee you, I say at least two games at least. We're going to see Stefon Diggs from Minnesota/Buffalo. We're going to have at least 2 of those games.
I can see Stefon getting a 100-yard game, but the reason why I say I don't think a $150 is there, $180, $190, because I think how Houston will look to utilize him throughout this season. Stefon is a guy on a 1-year deal, and they're going to want to make sure that they're not putting him, I think so, in too many harming situations. But what I like about Stefon Diggs is everything the Houston Texans needed and wanted from Robert Woods last year, Stefon Diggs is here to do it. And so you guys look at the side of the screen and vital role for Stefon Diggs in Houston. What does that look like? Now you're getting the guy, and we talked about this all offseason. When he got to Houston, 5-headed monster, how can you incorporate Nico, Tank, Stefon, Joe Mixon, Dalton Schultz? How can all of these guys eat in Houston? Well, one thing that I said with their tight end group, Cody, remember what I said? They're gonna have to contribute by putting their hands on somebody else. They gotta be better blockers. They gotta be able to block. They gotta approach the run game like offensive linemen. We saw that. We talked about it, highlighted to open up the show. We'll see more productive game number-wise, stats-wise from Dalton Schultz, but isn't that the best way to start off the season? And then we look at the wide receivers. How are you going to worry about this? Who are you going to worry about? Well, I said, Tank is going to be the guy that can do it all. Tank is going to do it all for the Houston Texans. Sunday, Did Tank have a monster game? No, 3 catches, 40 yards, 7 targets, nearly 14 yards per catch. And then he got in on the run game a little bit. 2 carries for 19 yards, one that went for 17 yards. Doing it all. Nico was going to be your guy that, you know what? You need a 20-yard catch, I go get it. Don't worry about it. Just throw it up. I'll rebound it. Not a problem. When I look at Stefon Diggs, his vital role in Houston will be being able to hurt teams defensively underneath. Well, now you got to feel, okay, Tank is going to do all of it. He's going to create separation. Who are we putting on Tank? Nico. Who are we going to put on Nico? Now you're looking at Stefon Diggs maybe going up against a nickel, maybe going up against a linebacker, maybe going up against a player that isn't on the prioritized cover the best receiver guy. Because I got to put my corners on the best guys. And right now for Houston, the best receiver is Nico Collins. And I like Stefon Diggs in that role. I said at the moment he got to Houston, even dating back last year when everything started to fall off for the Buffalo Bills. The vertical threat that Stefon Diggs used to be isn't there anymore. And I told Houston fans, don't look for that. Will he give you a couple of plays here and there? Yeah, he will. But you think this offense is going to complain? 6 catches, 33 yards. I got 2 of them touchdowns. Where did those touchdowns come from? The very first one, it looked like a deep slant, or maybe a short drag, or something, a short crossing route. That was underneath. The second one, underneath, on the left side of the field. So that's what you're gonna get out of Stefon Diggs. And look at this. That's how you get everybody involved. Because now if I'm hitting Diggs off, somebody got to come down a little bit to maybe help with that. Now I got Nico over the top I can hit. Now he's in one-on-one coverage. Now I got Tank on the other side. Now I got Dalton Schultz who will feast on a team in the middle of the field on the seams. So now I got these different players. And by the way, if we keep running the ball like this, I got bootlegs. I can hit Brevin Jordan. Joe Mixon gonna run all over you. That's how you get all of these hands involved. Everybody has a role, vital role for Stefon. And I honestly think him being able to be impactful and effective underneath the defense will open up a lot of things for the Houston Texans offensively. And before we talk about CJ Stroud, you heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. We got something different for you today. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube TV and YouTube. Then with a YouTube TV-based plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. Just visit FanDuel.com, download America's #1 sports book today. Texans fans, you don't want to miss out. Welcome back in, Locked On Texans listeners and viewers. Got an interesting stat here to show you guys, and I think it's kind of funny because a quarterback up north is a reason why this number isn't high. Week 1 NFL passing touchdowns. 2019, 61. 2020, 52. 2021, 61. 2022, 51. 2023, 37. 2024 to open up the year. So far, pending Monday Night Football, only 33. CJ Stroud had 2 of those touchdowns to help the Houston Texans get over the Indianapolis Colts. And I do think that was a good start, year 2 start for CJ Stroud. My biggest takeaway was just Bobby talking about, putting him in late read situations throughout practice. And because of that pressure, he had to find late reads. He had to find his last read. And CJ Stroud, listen, those numbers, you may think, well, he didn't throw for 300. He only missed 8 passes. He was 24 of 32, 234 yards, 2 TDs, no interceptions. They were both called back. But you look at it, he's still getting the job done when he needed to. And another interesting stat for you guys, just to show you guys how clutch CJ Stroud was for the Houston Texans. He was 8 of 9 on 3rd and 4th downs. So on the money downs, he getting it done, right? And that's what you want to see, because we talk about Joe Mixon helping the Houston Texans just control the clock, but eventually you're going to need your quarterback to go out there and make a play. And CJ Stroud did that. So I got a lot of respect for what CJ did Sunday. I think year 2 is going to look phenomenal for him. And he did it against a defensive front that was after him, causing pressure all game.
Man, you just stole everything off my notes, man. Plain and simple. The one thing that I would like to add is the fact that, of course, CJ Stroud is going to look phenomenal in year 2. I mean, the boy completed a pass to Brevin Jordan while falling down on his knees. Well, what's more entertaining than that? That might be my favorite play for him. Well, my second favorite play when I go back to the way he led the Houston Texans on that game when they drive against Tampa Bay last season. But man, I love what I've seen out of CJ Stroud. John, you already alluded to this, man, but this was my favorite part. Watching him in training camp struggle with the pressure. Remember, there was one point in training camp. We came on this show. We was like, man, look, we not about to sit here and say he about to go through a second year slump, but there's been several times where he was frustrated. There were several times where he was holding on to the ball too long. He missed his target. He overthrew his target. And it was like, what is going on? That was during like the first 2.5 weeks of training camp. Now, literally watching him, especially early on in the game, when the offensive line, I think it was more so miscommunication. Things wasn't going too right for the offensive line, and it seemed like every snap he had pressure in his face. And this is the Indianapolis Colts, who has one of the best front fours in the league, in my opinion. And he was still able to go out there and make plays, go through his reads and find his third and fourth read and everything else. When he's falling down to his knees, still have an opportunity to connect with Brevin Jordan for a first down, man. I just love what I saw out of CJ Stroud, man. And I really do believe year 2 for number 7 is going to be a damn good year for that man.
You know what? Who we hadn't shot out yet?
Who
we have not shouted out yet?
Who?
Hey, Henry Toa had a good game Sunday.
Save it. Because tomorrow I want to focus on him and Aziz, man. That 1-2 punch right there.
Hold on, because it's the third. Jalen Petrie had a good game.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I saw a lot of the comments. There was a concern for war safety. And
hey, I tried to start it.
It was a rough outing for Jimmy Ward. But we got a lot to talk about this week. Of course, then we prepare for the Chicago Bears, who struggled Sunday. I think the Houston Texans may do them dirty. So find out how we feel about this team and how they're going to attack week 2 throughout the week here with the Locked On Texans podcast. Follow us on Twitter at Locked On Texans. Subscribe, like, and comment to the Locked On Texans podcast on YouTube and wherever you listen to your podcast. Follow me on Twitter at John_Hickman12.
And as always, I'm your host, Cody M. Davis. Please remember to follow me on Twitter at CodyDavis_24. Once again, it's Cody, COTYDAVIS_24. Really quick, we are sorry about the technical difficulties we had on yesterday's show. We don't know what went on. We don't know what went on, but we still had an opportunity to get the show up. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. But until next time, ladies and gentlemen, peace.